Okay, so today we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. This is probably what you guys have all been waiting for. We're going to really start looking at the book of Revelation and what it all consists of. We're going to spend 3 weeks on this, and so I originally was going to break it up into 2 weeks, but I don't want to go so fast that I have to skip stuff. And so here again, I'm taking a little liberty with making a change. But so instead of 2 weeks, we're going to draw this out into three. But I want to kind of set the stage today, and so you can see what's going on. Um, when we go back and look at our timeline here, we we talked about these prophecies, these empires and nations, and this last empire that was going to rise up. We talked about what the world was going to be like as we approach these last days with this empire comes to into forming. We talked about this prophecy of the tribulation, which lays out this 7 year period of time at the end where all this stuff was going to happen. God was going to put an end to sin and basically pour out his wrath. Then we talked about the church age and how it would fall away and what that would look like, the world would look like when that occurred. And so now, last week, we talked about the rapture and the time believers would spend in heaven. And so today we're going to start talking about the tribulation period on earth, the 7 years, what that's going to look like. And I hope that you will consider going back and watching my video on how to be saved, how to accept Christ as the sacrifice for your sin and be welcomed into his kingdom. I wouldn't wish this tribulation period on anybody. And I mean, this isn't even going to be nearly as bad as, being cast in a lake of fire. So uh, let's let's start. I want to show you this. My dad a few years ago, several years ago now, I guess, come up with this chart. And let me move anyway. It's so the the book of Revelation follows these seals. Can I let me change this a little bit here? All right, so you can see what's going on. Move my picture out of the way. All right, so we're going to follow these seals. The book of Revelation. In fact, I got another picture I want to show first. So you have seven seals that are open. On the sixth seal, you have seven trumpets. Now, seven trumpets. The first six seals really is man-made tribulation. Mankind is just destroying themselves. Then the seven trumpets begin. It's God's tribulation. He starts his tribulation, and then once you get to the sixth trumpet, the seven bowls of wrath. So this is God pouring out his wrath on the earth, and during the last three of these, you're going to have three woes that God is going to pour out. And so I also have this timeline, and my dad put these together. And so basically, there's three of them, and I'll look at each of them independently. But when you put them all together, this is what it looks like. It's just so small, it's hard to follow. But you can see on the top, you have the seven seals. So the entire book of Revelation, all of the tribulation period, is kind of organized by these seals. And so we're going to look at the spiritual invasion, which is when the Antichrist comes to power. And the first 3.5 years here is going to be a time of peace. Israel will rebuild their temple. They will restart their sacrifices. But still, this Antichrist is going to want to be worshipped. And so at the end of the 3.5 years, he will get frustrated. He actually goes into the temple, sits in the throne room, declares himself God, and outlaws all other religions. And so you're going to see after the first 3.5 years, the sacrifices will stop, and he will want to be worshipped. And so this is when that happens. There are two witnesses that God establishes. Now, I will say at the beginning of this, God marks 144,000 people for himself to use according to his will during this tribulation period. Now, that 144,000, there's a lot of confusion and a lot of different religions about it, but basically, there's 12,000 Jews from each tribe of the nation of Israel that will be marked for God's work, whatever God desires for them to do during this tribulation period. That's all that 144,000 it represents. But those people that are marked for this work will not be harmed by the things that occur during this time. But the two witnesses come to the Wailing Wall, and they will start witnessing. And at this time, the church is raptured. So these really are the only two primary witnesses spreading the gospel at this time. Of course, you're going to have international media with satellites and telecommunications. And so everybody's going to see these people. They're going to hate and despise them. These men are going to have power to release the plagues according to their own desires. I mean, they're going to have a lot of power. A lot of people seem to think that these come from history, that they may be Elijah and Enoch. The Bible doesn't say that. I don't know where people get that. I'm going to do a study on Enoch and Elijah in the fall. So you have a little better understanding of who they are and what actually happened to them. But they will not be coming back, I don't think, to be witnesses here. These will be men that are here in the world at the time, and so they'll start witnessing. And then you're going to have this war is going to lead to famine, and all of that's going to lead to a death of a quarter of the population, and then you have this martyrdom, and then this the basically the Antichrist is going to get tired of these witnesses, get tired of people not worshiping him, and start killing people that defy him and won't worship him. And that's when you start getting the trumpets. And so God starts blowing these trumpets, and different things happen. Of course, the fifth and sixth and seventh trumpet come with these woes. And so you're going to have the first woe, which is locusts, which is some sort of demonic beings coming out of the pits of hell that can really unleash terror on mankind. And then you're going to have this other one where God really um, really begins to punish the earth at this time. Um, you're also going to see, uh, and I forget where it is in here, somewhere. Oh yeah, probably after the fifth seal. Yeah, I think after he kills the martyrs, the Antichrist institutes the mark of the beast. That's what it is. And then because of the mark of the beast, then you see the seven trumpets. God prepares the angel for the seven trumpets. And so a lot of this is really to get the attention of the people who didn't get the mark of the beast to turn to God. And then finally, you have the seventh seal, the seventh trumpet, the seventh. Oh yeah, he gets to the bowls of wrath, and so that's really God's wrath being poured out. But all of these, the seventh seal, seventh trumpet, seventh bowl of wrath, and the third woe, all culminate into what we know really as the battle of Armageddon. You're going to see the destruction of the new Babylon and Armageddon, the battle of Armageddon. So that's what we got to look forward to. But I want to kind of look so you can see these a little better, just kind of go one by one. So, the first seal, second seal, third seal, fourth seal. And what I've done and what I'm going to do over the next few weeks, I have taken these other verses that relate to these different seals and compiled them, and we'll kind of read through the account, just kind of straight through it. And then you have the fifth seal and sixth seal, and of course the trumpets and the woes, and then you get to the end here, and you're going to have all of this chaos and anarchy. And so you got the doom of Babylon. There's seven thunders the Bible talks about, but he tells John not to reveal it to the world. It will be revealed at the final judgment, but we'll briefly look at that. And then the Battle of Armageddon, of course. Then the week after that, we'll talk about the new heaven and new earth. So I've got a timeline here of the book of Revelations, which might help with chronological outline. And so, God introduced himself and this revelation to John in chapter 1, and then chapter 2 and 3 were the letters to the seven churches, which really was talking about the church age. And then chapter 4, we see a vision of the rapture and the Antichrist coming to power. And then we're going to see the reign of the Antichrist. And as we get into the first seal, and then we're going to, the second through the sixth seal, you're going to see war and famine and all that stuff. And then we're going to start seeing the trumpets of the angels as God starts his tribulation on the earth. And then, of course, the woes will come in. And then we're going to also see the bowls of wrath, which is God pouring out his wrath. So you're going to have the last plagues, the destruction of the new Babylon and Armageddon, and then the reign of Christ, the millennial kingdom of Christ. And then there will be a final rebellion of Satan, the great white throne judgment of Almighty God, and then a new heaven and a new earth. And so we're going to kind of go through Revelation and look at all these things, but that's a good outline if you're looking for a way to kind of organize the book of Revelation so you can understand it in some way. And I just want to look at some passages. If you go to chapter 1 in the book of Revelation, this really, it starts out with Jesus saying, I want you to write the things that are to come. Down here in verse 4 says, to the seven churches that are in Asia, write these things. And it says here, from the seven spirits which are before his throne. And you're going to see down here that there's seven spirits and seven candlesticks, and they represent the seven churches and the seven church leaders. So there's a lot of talk like that, these spirits and candlesticks, and there's going to be a lot of talk about voices of thundering and lightning and um, all of that. And so I kind of wanted to give you a picture of that. Uh, this is see right here in the midst of the seven candlesticks. So one like the Son of Man, clothed with the garments. And so this is Jesus standing in the midst of them. And down here it says in his right hand were seven stars. And so this is going to be, it goes out the mouth of the two-edged sword. So you have all of this terminology. John didn't really know what he was seeing and understand a lot of it. But here it says in verse 30, the mystery of the seven stars, which you saw in the right hand, and the seven candlesticks. The seven stars are the angels of the seven churches, which are the church leaders, and the seven candlesticks are the churches themselves. And so he leaves chapter 1 and he goes into these letters to the seven churches, which we already talked about in the church age prophecies. If you want to go back and watch them, but the seven letters to the seven churches represent the church age. And then, of course, in chapter 3, they continue. In chapter 4, we get a picture of the rapture. I think most Bible scholars agree that after the church age ends, there's a rapture. And it says, I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven, and the first voice which I heard were as it were a trumpet. So now the sound of a trumpet, taking me, it said, come up hither, and I will show thee things. And so this is really kind of a picture of the church being raptured. And then there was a throne set, and it's talking about all these elders. And I think the 24 elders are going to be 24 apostles of the Lamb, and probably 20 or 12 apostles of the Lamb, and 12 prophets, probably one prophet from each tribe of the nation of Israel, because the Bible says that every tribe will be represented. And so I think that's probably what that is. But then you have these lightnings and thunderings and voices, and you're going to hear that a lot. Seven lamps of fire were burning before the throne, which are the seven spirits of God. Of course, you're going to get down here and you're going to see the seven spirits of God are really the seven angels that prepare to blow their trumpets as the seven trumpets blow. And so you get into that. And then verse 5 really introduces this book with the seals, and there was nobody that could open them. And so John began to weep. And verse 5 says, one of the elders said to me, weep not, behold, the Lion, the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and loose the seven seals. And so the Lamb of God is going to open these seven seals one by one. And then it talks about East, and you're going to hear more about them in the upcoming days. But he's worthy to take the book and open the seals. And this is again about God. And then you're going to see, heaven rejoicing that these seven seals could be opened. And then we're going to see the first seal that's open in chapter 6. I saw the Lamb open one of the seals, and I heard the noise and thunder, and one of the four beasts saying, come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow and a crown, and was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And so this is the Antichrist coming to power right here. And so, I mean, we'll look a little more at it next week, but we have some other verses that we can look at. But that's what's going on, and that's going to cover 3.5 years of peace. Like I say, the nation of Israel will rebuild their temple, restart their sacrifices, and I think the rapture is going to just spin the world into chaos, and this new leader is going to be catapulted. Of course, this new Babylon, the city we talked about, will be just a international commerce, and there's going to be a lot of wealth, a lot of fornication, a lot of drinking and celebrating and partying. And I mean, it's going to be this first 3.5 years. The people on earth really are going to think that they are in some kind of utopia. This is the world that they dreamed of. They've gotten rid of the church. They don't have any of this stuff to deal with, but it's not going to be enough for the Antichrist and for the beast, and they're going to want to be worshipped more. And so that's when the 3.5 years ends, and they're going to get into more of that. But so we'll look a little more next time. I'm going to stop right there and just leave you here with the Antichrist coming to rule. And if you want to go back and look at some of the other verses, the church age, and maybe even the well, ones that I did about the new world government coming to power, because that really is where we're at here. And so we'll look at um, seal second through sixth next week, as we look at the trumpets and the woes and the bowls of wrath as they're revealed to the world, unleashed on the world, and the last plagues, which are the bowls of wrath. And then we'll have the third week we'll look at the destruction of the new Babylon, this filthy city, and the battle of Armageddon as Christ comes down from heaven to battle against these armies that surround Israel. And then we'll move on to the final uh, portion of this Bible study. So that's where we've been, and that's where we're heading. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to end it there for today, and we'll see you next time. All right. Well, I thank you for joining us. God bless you.